Hello and welcome back to Rams Talk Podcast. Derby's winning run is officially over. We lost yesterday against Swansea. If you didn't see, I'm sure you all did. That brings our winning streak to an abrupt end. And we've got a challenging game on Tuesday night as well. But to talk all about yesterday, I'm joined by, firstly, Derby don't do well without Callum's, and neither do Rams Talk Podcast. It's Callum Boocock. How are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. It's been a while since I've come on with work and illness over the last few weeks. So it's good to be on. Unfortunately, the one I choose to come back on, we lose.
Exactly. I thought the same thing. I haven't hosted a win in probably what feels like 2 years. So yeah, maybe I'm a bad omen. Maybe you are, Callum. We're also joined by Singh. How are you, Vic?
Good evening, chaps. Yeah, similar to Callum. Feels like a long time since I've been on it as well. And trust me to join when we've lost. So yeah, not too bad, but we'll digest it all soon, won't we?
It's the Veterans Podcast today, isn't it?
It is. Well, we've got all the young whippersnappers on midweek now. So we're the old furniture that they roll out every so often. So we're the Conor Hourihane of last season, or maybe trying to think who's the experienced head this season. I'm
Eric Peters.
I'm not too sure. Well, yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Or the Martin Waghorn if he's rumoured to be back in the club. But Cal, we'll start with looking at the team. It came out yesterday. I think we all predicted that Caden Jackson would get the nod. There wasn't many other options. You potentially could have had Mendes Lang up there. Obviously had Lennon Wilden on the bench as well. Let's talk about Jackson first. I think for me in the first half, he had a lot of endeavour, showed a lot of energy, but just wasn't the replacement we wanted for Jerry Yates, was he?
No, it's not really particularly the player that you want to put on. He's been out of form for a while now, but I think that just shows what options we have up top in cover when we don't have a Yates or we don't have now obviously a Harness who's a converted striker. So yeah, you feel bad for him because at the end of the day, if you're just purely out of form, because he was a decent player at the start of the season, and although maybe his talent and his quality on the ball, it can be questioned. He still was in form at the start of the season, and we thought we had a player, but unfortunately, the Caden Jackson that went out of form at Ipswich and obviously got him the move to us in the end on a free has kind of come back. So yeah, when you look at the game overall, you point out that the lack of concentration for the obviously the goal being conceded, but we really didn't have an attacking outlet up top yesterday, and Harness really missed that kind of partner he's been having in Yates, and hopefully obviously Yates can come straight back in on Wednesday or Tuesday.
Tuesday. Yeah, it's because we played Wednesday last week. It's thrown it completely out.
We are Friday soon.
We will be in Europe, hopefully. Give it a couple of years. Vic, did yesterday show how much we need and miss Jerry Yates?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it also highlights the lack of sort of squad depth as well. I think something we probably banged on about all season is, especially the forward areas, we're very, very slim on that. And I think yesterday highlighted how much we do actually miss Yates's work rate off the ball, especially. Nothing against Jackson. I just think that Yates is more methodical when it comes to his press. He knows when to sort of look for the triggers, where I think with Jackson, of course you're going to get 100% effort. It's just they're two different players. So yeah, we miss Yates quite a bit, but not to knock Jackson. He tried to do a job, and it was just unfortunate that it wasn't to Yates' standard. So we missed him, but I'm glad he's sort of back for the Burnley game, and hopefully we can go back on a nice little run again.
Yeah, well rested. Hopefully he can come straight back into the team and get a goal. It's always the way where a player misses a game through a reason like this, and they end up scoring the game before. It seems the Derby County way, but hopefully he can kick on from obviously his goal against Preston. Cal, we also learned from the team news coming out that Callum Elder was missing. I was a little bit worried seeing him do his knee against Preston. He seemed to jar it, and you just look at situations like that previously, it never ends well. No one ever kind of, completely goes on to do what he did and get an assist and play and get man of the match. But he managed to do it. there was a bit of a worry. It sounds like he could be back on Tuesday, but another kind of pivotal player that we were missing yesterday.
Yeah, and obviously when you look at the start of the season and you thought Callum Elder really going to be a pivotal player going forward, it probably was just necessity because we didn't really have another left back in the building other than Fozzie on paper. But he's been really, really good, really, really assured. And when the lineup came out, you're just kind of thinking, well, who's going to provide that other outlet, because Wilson can't do it on his own, obviously. And now we've really got two wing backs in the building, and that's Wilson and Elder. And if anything happens to them long term for the rest of the season, then I think we're up the creek, as you'd say. So I think Elder, by the sounds of it, is just going to be. It just came too soon. I think Saturday they didn't want to risk him. He trained on Friday, and it was kind of a game time decision to see how he could play out, and it obviously didn't really play out in terms of time. So they've obviously looked forward to Tuesday. So hopefully it's just a very, very short term niggle that he can kind of get over. But he's been great, and hopefully him and Wilson can be back in the win back positions come Tuesday.
Yeah, and I think it's just vital now we keep both of them fit, isn't it? Obviously, with the news on Nyambe as well, Vic, he's obviously going to be out until the end of the season. Feel desperately sorry for him. He just can't catch a break. But with him being out, and obviously we'll talk about it later in terms of the goal that we conceded yesterday, you're not as defensively kind of set in that right wing back area. How much of a miss will Ryan Nyambe be?
Yeah, it'd be a huge miss. I think it's a shame that his season's been quite start-stop in the sense that he gets a run of games and then unfortunately picks up an injury, and it opens the door for Wilson. And like we always say, competition's always good for that sort of position. But we're looking at the final 6 games now, and every player sort of counts. And ideally, you need 2 options in every position. And unfortunately, now with Nyambe out for the season, you're maybe looking at doing square pegs in round holes, potentially, if something happens to Wilson. I think on the left side, I think if Alder's out, and then we know Fozzie can play there. I know Eric Peters isn't 100% fit just yet, but we're probably brought him in to maybe potentially do a job should we need to rely on him. Hopefully that's not the case, but we know he's there. So it's Nyambe is going to be a big miss, but then it could open the door to another potential player. For example, I think Joe Ward sort of disappeared from the face of the earth, and we know he's played in right wing back in previous games before. Jake Rooney's appeared on the bench a couple of times, or we could always look into the academy. So I think we've got viable options, but I think because the squad is so threadbare at the minute, especially with it being 6 games left of the season and 6 vital games at that, losing a player like Nyambe does disappoint us. But again, you can only deal with the cards that you dealt with. So if it means that Nyambe's out, hopefully someone else can step up to the plate and fill in his position, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. No, I agree. And I think we obviously, like I said before, if we can keep them 2 fit, they are your 2, in wide areas that you want. You want Ward and you want Elder on the pitch. So it could be a lot worse. Look, I don't want any of these teams or these players injured, but I think, I guess Wilson being injured could probably hurt us more. We need that attacking threat that he kind of offers. In terms of yesterday then, Cal, I just want to, talk about the big opportunities that we had. I mean, the first half was much of muchness, but Wilson had a glorious opportunity, didn't he, from a throw-in that was flicked on by Clark. Now, it seemed he had maybe 3 options, and he decided to take the worst option of them all and try and find the net himself. But I think there was an option there to potentially play it back in, harness us in a good goal-scoring opportunity, or as Sean Barker said on Rams TV, just drill it across the face and just hope that somebody gets a foot, whether that's a Derby player or a Swansea player. You never know where it could end up. A really glorious chance, that particular one, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think when chances in those sort of games are hard to come by both sides. I mean, we shut out Swansea for 70 plus minutes. So, I mean, we had the half chances going into the second half, and you're kind of looking at it going, like you said, he's got three options. Do you just, like you said, like bullet it across and hope it nicks off someone and goes in because you've put it into the danger zone, or do you look at Harness, who was kind of stood there in acres of space, and cut it back? But he's taken probably the opportunity that we probably all would take, and it's really easy to analyze in hindsight. But if you're 7 or 8 yards from goal, you think you could nick it in the near post and just kind of drill it at the keeper, then you're kind of going to take it. And he's an attacking minded player. He's a player who thrives off his flair and stuff. So if he's a couple of yards out, he's going to kind of go for it, isn't he? So I can't really look down upon him for doing it. But when you look at it on a TV screen, you're kind of just screaming at it just to play it back. But I think, he's kind of done what we'd all do.
And I think two of our best chances came to our right wing back and left wing back, because Fozzie also had that opportunity where he went with his left foot. I can't remember a time where Fozzie scored twice in 2 games. He's really rolling back the years to find himself in these positions anyway. It's one of those, Vic, we've all been there. We've all played football when that ball comes in and it's on your weaker foot, and if you swing with it. I mean, look, we're not professionals, but if it was me on a Sunday morning or a Saturday afternoon, that would have, and it was on my weaker foot, that would have ballooned over the bar. So we know why Fozzie wants to do it, but should have really gone with his right foot, shouldn't he?
Yeah, definitely. And if you think back to the Preston game, especially when Yates got his goal, it was a touch of good fortune. I think if he probably would have just swung his right foot at it, he probably would have got some decent connection, and that's 1-0. And we're talking potentially another 3 points away from home. But again, it's just one of those things. I think we created quite a few chances. It's just unfortunate that we couldn't put them away. But again, at this stage of the season, every opportunity counts. And if you're not putting the ball in the back of the net, unfortunately, you do get punished at this level. And we'll probably go on to talk about Swansea's goal in a little while. But yeah, it was a great chance for Foz. I thought if he'd have just got any sort of connection on that with his right foot, that's definitely 1-0. And we're talking game 1. And Swansea, for all the possession, weren't really much of a threat, in my opinion. So we probably could have controlled the game from there. But like I said, I think we've had the rub of the green the last 4 or 5 games. I think something like that's inevitably going to go against us. So unfortunately for Foz, he's not a natural goal scorer, but it would have been nice to see him get 2 in 2, and then we could build that statue outside Pride Park for him. But yeah, and another day that goes in if he puts his right foot onto it. But what can you do? He's a left back. We can't expect him to bury it. Do you know what I mean?
Vic would have outside the booted that round the corner.
I'd have probably put it into Rose Ed, to be fair.
a little back heel, I reckon. That'd have been what Vic had done. Turned his back on it and got a back heel, and it gone top corner. But
I would have just shot it completely with my right foot.
Look, I hate getting in them positions, if I'm honest, because there's only one thing that happens, and the goal is never in threat. I'd be worried if I was a professional footballer. Not that that's ever going to happen, or was ever going to happen. But yeah, I'd be upset for the people in the front row, or maybe in row Z, because they're in danger. We've got to talk about the best chance, in my opinion, and it fell to Caden Jackson. Some really good work by Tom Barkhuizen on the left. Finds Jackson, the quick Jackson, as we're led to believe, prolific Jackson. It's some tackle, I have to say. It is some tackle. I think Jackson probably takes a second too long to set himself. And again, this is where we talk about, if you're a striker in form, you don't even have that second to look up. You just get your foot behind it. You know where the goal is. Whereas Jackson just wanted it under his feet for a bit too long. And a fantastic tackle from Joe Allen, who, you don't expect that at that age to be able to get back and find a tackle like that. But again, another glorious opportunity wasted. Callum just fell to the wrong man. You'd probably rather it fallen to Harness, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a perfectly timed tackle. I mean, a half second too early, he's taking him out. Half second too late, he's taking him out. He's just got it spot on. And I mean, if he had done that at Pride Park, it would have erupted. And obviously, what it did at Swansea in against us in terms of that goal-saving moment, because then they've obviously gone up the other end and got the winner. But yeah, Jackson's because you're kind of looking at it from an outside perspective. He hasn't scored. He's not been in form. He's got that chance that he's been played through, and rather than just kind of taking a snapshot, if it was with Harness or maybe even Yates after his goal last week, you kind of look at it going, well, do they take it half second earlier? Do they take a touch and let Alan take them out and kind of be a bit clever about it? Because he's kind of hesitated, it's given Alan an opportunity to get his foot in. So yeah, tough one to see, because you kind of look at it going in terms of creating an opening. There wasn't really many openings in the entire game, and when you have one-on-one, you kind of want your strikers on the day to have at least a shot on target, or at least a shot, but obviously not to have one and kind of leaving Jackson on a heap and then obviously having to go off. You kind of sat there going, well, it's an opportunity wasted.
Yeah, and we obviously don't know. Hopefully Kane Jackson's departure is not going to keep him out for too long, if at all. We obviously got to see Lennon Wilden. Obviously, we like seeing academy graduates come onto the scene. Yes, we probably wouldn't want them coming on up front when we're in this situation, but another player out of the academy, highly rated Vic, it's good to see, and hopefully that will give him the world of confidence to go maybe back to the under-21s, continue his development, and maybe feature, if not this season, maybe next season for the first team. Yeah,
definitely. And I think one thing Eustace prides himself on is bringing through youth players. And I think the fact that we've seen the emergence of players like Lennon Wilden, we've seen the lad from the under-18s who scored 14 in 12 games on the bench. I think there's another couple of academy lads on the bench again this weekend. It shows a lot of promise, that the fact that Eustace does trust the youth academy. And I think we know whatever happens, the academy is in good hands, and there's a pathway there to the first team. And seeing Lennon come on yesterday, albeit it was a small cameo, but it's just nice to see that we have an option there, and hopefully potentially in the future he can maybe make that position his own, because I think an area that we've really struggled to sort of recruit in the last few years is striker. So if we could find someone from within that's maybe in the academy that's ready to make that step up, hopefully it's Lennon Wilden that can do that. But if not, then we know that there's other players there that are ready to sort of take their chance when it comes. But yeah, like you said, it'll be good for his development going back into the under-21s. Me personally, I'd like to see him probably stick around in and around the first team and be on the bench a bit more. It's just an option. It's an unknown option for the opposition. You never know what he could bring to the table. He could score the goal that maybe potentially keeps us up. You never know. Sometimes when you've got players like this who are raw and at this age, there's no fear in them. Harrison Armstrong is a perfect example of that, an 18, 19-year-old who's really taken the bull by its horns, and he's made that midfield position his, and he seems to be flourishing game upon game. Hopefully, if we can do that with a player like Lennon Wilden, you just never know. Especially if we're looking very, very scarce in that front department. I think Kemar Roof looks a couple of weeks off at the minute. And obviously, Yates is the only option. If Jackson does get injured, then you sort of have to look upon your youth academy players. So at least the pathway is there for them. I'd like to see Lennon in and around the first team for the rest of the season, because he's a good option. But yeah, like I said, for his development, it's perfect to be in and around that environment, and hopefully next season he can really kick on from there.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens, but good times are happening in the academy at the moment. It's amazing that the academy has been able to bounce back as quickly as it has, because I think we all looked at it and thought, it's going to take years really for us to see the next product or the next person willing to make that step up. But we're starting to see it now, and I think that's great. So, Cal, let's talk about their goal, because we have to. Their only shot on target. I think, look, they passed the ball round nicely at times. I think they played quite nice football. But every cross before that particular one into the box, it was either Phillips, it was Clark, it was Langas. But we dealt with every single one. Zetterstrom made a couple of catches that he was unopposed. It was just this particular cross where the player dropped a shoulder, came inside on his weaker foot, and it was almost like let's get it into the area, not really know where it's going to be. In my opinion, watching it back a couple of times, I think Langas should do better. I think you're 6 foot something, you should get something on it, you should clear. And then we all know what happened at the back post. Wilson on his heels, and their player steals in, and it's 1-0. How did you see the goal? Who did you think was at fault, or is it an error from all?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a combination of multiple things. I mean, yeah, I mean, I alluded to it earlier on. I mean, to hold a mid-table championship team who at home they've been decent and they played decent football, to no shots at all, and no real threat. Yes, they had the ball, but they didn't really do a lot with it. To limit them to no shots until obviously the goal went in, you kind of sat there going, well, that's what we want to do. We want to shut teams out. We want to stop them and disrupt them. And kind of the game plan was going according to plan. And if we can nick it, we'll take it. And if obviously we could keep the draw, then we will. But yeah, so, I mean, you kind of alluded to it there with the amount of crosses that they put in. And it was the kind of the one that particular winger cut inside and kind of delivered a different ball, because he kind of was going down the outside all the time. And when he was putting it across, our defenders were kind of getting savvy to what was coming in. And as you say, Zetterstrom was coming out and commanding his area. And it was just the one in particular, he's cut inside, he's played it across. And obviously an in-swinging ball that's quite low, it's going to be dipping at the back post. You want your centre-half to go and attack it. I think that's what Wilson's anticipated. He's anticipated one of his three centre-halves going and getting something on that, even if it's a flick on and it goes out for a corner. But the fact that none of them did anything, and then it's kind of bounced in front of Wilson, and he hasn't seen that behind him there's an impending winger who's gone and tapped it in at the back post. So yeah, I think a combination of multiple things. My biggest thing is we shouldn't let crosses come in so often. Eustace was more annoyed at the centre-halves for not getting something on it, and everyone then, from a fan perspective, was looking at Wilson and Zetterstrom potentially. So, yeah, there's probably 3 or 4 players you could hang your hat on. But for me, they've shut a team out from having any shots for 70-plus minutes. The fact we haven't had any real attacking threat is where I'm looking. Is if you sat there looking at your defenders and going, well, you've let the one shot in. Well, I'm not being funny. We've kept them from having a shot for 70-odd minutes, and you haven't done anything up the other end. So yeah, so it's a kind of an entire team perspective that you got to look at it. But it's a frustrating goal from when we've obviously been holding out for 70-odd minutes, and these points are vital in obviously the battle that we're in.
Yeah, no, I think you made a good point there in terms of, as fans, we immediately look at Wilson because he's the closest to the player that scored. But actually, Eustace probably will be upset about something that's happened a play before that, or potentially Caden Jackson not closing down the winger quick enough, So, yeah, as much as Wilson and potentially Langas were at fault, like you said there, it really does fall upon the team. I think a couple of people were calling out Zetterstrom's position. I didn't really understand that. I think sometimes as Derby fans, we always put a bit more on the goalkeeper, which I don't necessarily understand, because I think for all parts he's been pretty good, and I think he's really kicked on since Eustace and Eustace's team has kind of come in. Vic, do you feel the same in terms of Zetterstrom? Have you seen that improvement?
Yeah, I mean, like with Zetterstrom, I think the main difference, since Eustace has come in, is he's commanding his area a lot more. He's winning a lot more balls in the air. He's actually catching it now rather than actually punching it away. I think that's what Zetterstrom was lacking before. I think his distribution's still obviously a bit here and there. But I didn't understand the criticism in the sense of his positioning was off. I think as a goalkeeper, naturally, if the ball's going to come in from that side of the field, you're going to be at your near post. And I think if you look back at it, he was pretty much in where he should be. Even alluding to the Wilson thing, I think even if Wilson did get anything onto that, you could potentially be looking at an own goal, because the ball was pretty much fizzed in at an angle. So even if he did get his foot onto it, it could have ended up in the back of the net. So I think it's quite difficult to pinpoint why the goal went in. I just think it was a really good ball, a really good threatening ball. And the only criticism you could make is maybe Wilson could have checked his shoulder just to get his body in the way. But again, like we said, that could have just easily deflected off him. But back to the Zetterstrom point, yeah, he's come on leaps and bounds. I think he's already a solid enough keeper prior to Eustace coming in. I think Eustace has really worked on his distribution, and his distribution is suspect at times, don't get me wrong, but it has improved. but his commanding of the area has really improved, and I think he started catching balls a lot more. He's trying to look to play that ball forward a lot quicker than he used to. Not always trying to look at the wing backs, pushing further up and trying to get it on for a flick on. He's varying it, so he's improved quite a lot. I do think he comes under quite a bit of criticism, considering he doesn't do a lot wrong, which I think is quite unfair. But yeah, I think as long as his good form keeps continuing, hopefully he makes the vital saves to try and keep us up this season.
Yeah, and hopefully he's doing a roly-poly on Tuesday. That's the most important thing. If Zetterstrom's doing roly-polies, then everyone's happy. Well, we'll put a line under that one. It's one of them games. You can't win them all. We're obviously on the back of some really good form. We weren't going to win every single game until the end of the season, but it's time to bounce back, and it's going to be a tough task because we've got the league leaders, Burnley, on Tuesday. Now, before we preview the game as a free, we did hear from Turfcast and got their overview of the game.
Burnley fan here, Joe Redmond from Turfcast Podcast, just giving my thoughts ahead of the game between Derby County and Burnley this coming Tuesday. We're under no illusions, it's going to be a tough game. John Eustace, for all these issues and the club that he came from, you know, he's a good manager. We have beaten him once this season, but he's also frustrated us once this season when Blackburn drew at the Turf earlier in the year. Well, sorry, they treated it like they won at the Turf when they drew 1-1. So he has frustrated us before, but we have also beaten him. So we know it's going to be a tough game. We're obviously in good form at the minute, the most informed team in the division, and we have just gone top of the table. But yeah, it's going to be tough to play against a team that's down there fighting. Look at Leeds, have just lost at Luton, drew at Luton, for example, and obviously Sheffield United lost at Oxford. So we're under no illusions. It's going to be a tough game. But obviously, fingers crossed from our perspective that we get the win. For this season, we've obviously done well. We're top of the league, but it's been a strange season, really, because at the start of the season, we started slowly. We were drawing too many games. I know it was a running joke that Burnley drew too many games 0-0, and we did. Like, we drew with you guys 0-0 at the Turf. We drew with Stoke 0-0 at the Turf. We drew with Preston 0-0 at the Turf. We drew with Oxford 0-0 away from home. So, you know, I think we drew 11 games 0-0. It's obviously a lot. But obviously we're top of the table, so nobody's complaining at this stage now. But we do feel like recently, since late January, early February, and then into March, we've slowly but surely got better. We got better going forward. We're scoring a lot more goals. And obviously we're getting some impressive wins, winning down at the CBS Arena. You ask any Coventry fan, they'll say we didn't deserve it, but we did. Coventry fans love a cry. I don't know how you Midlands teams caught with Coventry. But we were brilliant, contained them very, very well. Brilliant's a stretch, to be fair, but we contained them very well, very, very well. Killed the game and stopped them from creating too much. Obviously, we're just beating Bristol City, a team that's in the playoffs as well. So we're quite happy with where we are at the minute, but it's, you know, top of the table. If we lose, for example, on Tuesday night and Leeds and Sheffield United both win, we're back down to third and we're worrying again about the playoffs. So a lot of twists and turns in the next few days, weeks even, expected. But fingers crossed, obviously Burnley can come out on the right side of it and end up in the top two. I'm not too bothered about winning the league at this stage. I just want to get promoted, just so I can see my team get beat every single week, to be fair, which obviously you guys will be more than aware of what happens in the Premier League and how awful it can be up there. But yeah, obviously we just want to get there. Which players are likely to cause the most damage to this Derby team is one of the questions I've been sent, and it's Jadon Anthony, it's Marcus Edwards, it's Joshua Brownhill, even Zian Fleming, who he's had a decent season, is Zian. There are some question marks surrounding him sometimes, like whether the ball just bounces off him and stuff, or does he hold it up properly and that sort of thing. But he's scoring goals. Marcus Edwards has been the one that's come into this Burnley team and changed us and got us playing really, really good stuff. But it wasn't great against Coventry, if I'm going to be honest with you. However, what tends to happen now with Marcus Edwards is we have threats on both wings now, whereas we used to be very, very one-dimensional, one-sided, everything would go through Jadon Anthony. Whereas now we have Marcus Edwards on the other side. Teams seem to focus on him more, giving Anthony the chance to be able to get into the game a lot easier, and obviously scoring 2 goals at Coventry as well. He should have scored more against Bristol City, but he didn't, and obviously got a goal at Swansea as well. So yeah, we're very, very happy with where we are now going forward. And I know that we've not scored a lot of goals for the team that's top of the table. I think it's only 54 we're on, something like that. But, if you look at that between now and when Marcus Edwards came in, it'd be probably quite high in proportion to the rest of the league. In terms of weaknesses, probably, out of everything I've just said, it's probably the forward line. But that's because I can't really say the midfield, because we've got Josh Cullen in there and he's superb. I can't say the defence, because the defence is absolutely superb. If you'd have asked me 3-4 weeks ago, I'd have said left back, because we've had an injury at left back. Bashir Humphries is out, and we've been playing Lucas Perez, and for the first few games, he did look like a little rabbit caught in headlights, and he was getting beaten quite easily. Coventry's offside goal, very offside by the way, did come from his side, and I do feel like he was pushed a little bit too far up the pitch, but he still played well against Coventry, so unfortunately not. There are no weaknesses. It's probably, if you frustrate us and stick 2 banks of four in front of us, like you did at the Turf, then we do struggle to break teams down. But over the last few weeks, the last few teams that have tried that have still lost. Sheffield Wednesday tried it, they got beat 4-0. Luton tried it, they got beat 4-0. I'll caveat that by saying Luton did have a man sent off, to be fair. But yeah, we're at the stage now where there's not necessarily any weaknesses. Score predictions for the game. I'm going to go 2-0 to the Clarets. I think we will ultimately just have a little bit too much for you. I do hope you get out of it. The little rivalry that you guys created with Blackburn when you stole John Eustace was absolutely beautiful to watch. I really enjoyed that. And it would be hilarious if, for example, you guys finished, 6th for next season and then what went down and John Eustace has sailed off into the sunset at the bigger club, at the better club, and then leaving all their tears behind. So yeah, fingers crossed you get out of it. But unfortunately for me, I think Burnley have too much for you on Tuesday.
Well, I'm once again reminded that Burnley have Marcus Edwards. How on earth did that happen? I did forget about that for about an hour, and now I've been reminded about it. So, yeah, I mean, Cal, the plethora of players that they've got to cause Derby problems. I mean, you can tell there that, you're talking about probably Premier League players, and your forward line is your weakness. It's going to be some challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, while we were just listening to Turfcast there, I mean, I was looking at their form and I didn't realise that they hadn't lost a game since November the 3rd. And I was like, how? but then, I mean, streaks are there to be broken. We broke Coventry's, and obviously they've now gone on a little bit of a sticky patch. Why can't we do the same to Burnley? I mean, they are like the ultimate championship team. They know how to get back out of the league. They've got a manager in Scott Parker who's, I mean, his coaching ability, in my personal opinion, is a bit like still in question because he seems to always find himself in those sort of bounce back clubs. And he's found himself in another one here who can kind of spend the money and get themselves back to the Premier League. And they're doing, I mean, just that with being in the top 3. So they're in a real fight to get automatic promotion, which obviously is annoying for us because it means they've got something to play for, and they're not just going to turn up and roll over or just turn up and just maybe switch their starting 11 round. It's going to be a real tough game for our lads. And I mean, I'll take an exact reverse point and of what we did there, and obviously we'll go into results later on, but I think if we can get anything out of this game, it's probably one on the rest of the season when we were looking 3 or 4 weeks back at what we had left, 12 games to go or 13 games to go whenever we did it, and you kind of looked at Burnley being the one where a defeat is more than likely. So yeah, it's going to be really tough, and we'll see what happens.
And I think we've obviously looked, like you said there, we've looked at the fixtures. We knew that this one was coming up. Obviously, if we got a result yesterday, Vic, we probably look at this as a bit of a free hit. We can go and give our best account of ourselves. If we come up short, we're not going to be surprised. Obviously, that can't be John Eustace's message. That can be the fans' message at the pub, but it can't be John Eustace's message. He'll be gearing this team up to do as best as possible and to take a point or 3 against Burnley. But like I said there to Callum, look, they're the best team in the division. They're sitting top. They've got all these players that can hurt you, and they're coming full of confidence on a ridiculous run. How does Eustace get a result on Tuesday, or is it impossible? Because that's what it feels
Pray.
like.
Pray.
No, well, we thought the same when Coventry came to town. We thought Coventry were the team in form, and we thought, we're going to lose this game here, and we completely nullified them and ended up with a 2-0 win. I think I was there for when we played at Burnley away, and we did actually catch him on the counter a couple of times. Like you said in his preview, if we set up to frustrate him, we could quite easily hit him on the counter. I think at the game at the Turf, I think Yates got through a couple of times one-on-one and missed a glorious chance to put us 1-0 up. But for the positivity that Burnley have, and I'm pretty sure they'll probably be the ones that do get automatic promotion this season, there's a slight edge to Tuesday in the sense that I've got a sense of optimism. I just feel like if you'd have asked me this about 3-4 weeks ago, I probably would have said, yeah, we'd have lost 4-0. But because of the way we're playing, the way we're disciplined, I think the way we're shaping up to be a very resilient side who are hard to break down and will punish you when we do get the chances. Okay, we didn't do that against Swansea, but we can still take a lot of positives from that game yesterday. We created enough chances. I think Tuesday might be a similar sort of thing. Burnley do have players that can hurt us. They will be on the front foot. They'll look to probably try and play through the middle more so than out wide. But I think we've got enough, especially in our midfield three and the back three that are going to play. I think we've got enough to sort of deal with it. It's just how long can we sustain the pressure? If they're literally throwing the kitchen sink at us, it could be a difficult evening for us, and we might be lucky to come away with a point. However, I do think that if we can exploit their weaknesses, which is to hit them on the counter by frustrating them, stopping them from playing their football, marking their key players out of the game, and then looking to hit them on the counter with a quick breakaway, which we can do, play Yates through on goal. You never know. So hopefully we can go out and get the 3 points on Tuesday. I'm quite optimistic. I think we normally tend to turn up when the big teams come to Pride Park, and who better than the league leaders at the minute? And like Callum said, they haven't lost since November, so maybe it's written in the stars.
And we've got to remember, obviously, yesterday was a mistake, and other times we'll make mistakes and we won't concede, or we'll be 2-0 up at that time and we'll win a game 2-1, something like that. But I think defensively, over the course of the last 4 or 5 games, we've been superb. I'm absolutely loving Nat Phillips at the moment. I mean, if we can get a crowdfunder to get 65 grand a week in his pocket, hopefully he'll sign because he's been great. Clark's been great. Obviously, Fozzie has been excellent as well. So we're at home as well. That's another massive thing. We've got the equaliser, which is the Pride Park pitch, because we know that teams will not want to play on that. And of course, we've got the fans in the stands as well. Callum, Liam Thompson was asked yesterday about the fans, and he said, "Look, again, 12th man," and that phrase keeps coming out. They're like the 12th man. How important will Derby's fans be, especially at home this season, for the rest of it?
I mean, massive. We've got massive home games coming up, Tuesday included. And yes, it might look on paper where it's kind of a real tough fixture to get a result from. But I mean, we've shown what our fan base can do to this team, and they do thrive off that atmosphere. And I'm not sure, obviously, how ticket sales are going for Tuesday, but obviously, if you haven't got a ticket yet and you can get yourself down there on Tuesday, get down there, because we've seen, especially in the last 4 or 5 games, what our crowd can do. And I think that I'm sure Burnley, with obviously a promotion season on the cards, are going to travel well. So it'll be a real good atmosphere, which, like Vic alluded to, we seem to thrive. This team seems to thrive under pressure and thrive under that almost them against us mentality. And Coventry were that team a couple of weeks ago, where they've come in form, and Sky Sports were kind of writing us off, and we've gone and turned them over 2-0. And why can't we do the same again? It's at the end of the day, it's a football match. Anything can happen. They could get an early red card, and we'll take the onus. So I mean, anything can happen in football. So yeah, I think for the rest of the season, if you can get yourself down to Pride Park, let's turn it into a fortress, because, I mean, Eustace has said that the reason he's come to Derby County is because we sell out grounds and sell out big games, and this is one on Tuesday.
I thought you were working for the marketing team there, Cal. That was a fantastic pitch. The phone will be ringing after this. You'll be getting a call from David Clowes. Vic, there is a player that recently joined Derby that's not yet featured for us, but he did move from Derby to Burnley. I mean, is it set up for a Jeff Hendrick goal off the bench in the final moments to nick all 3 points? This is where you say no.
Reminiscent of the goal he scored at Forest away. I'll take it. Well, he hasn't featured yet, has he? But it'd be nice to see him get a couple of minutes on the pitch. But to be fair, the midfield three look pretty solid. So where'd you fit him in? But at least we know we've got that option on the bench. So in short, no. But I'd like to see him get on the pitch at some point.
I think if you go 1-0 up and you're holding on for the last 5 minutes, he is perfect because he knows exactly how to see out a game. He's kind of the ultimate professional, and you can kind of take off like a Thompson or an Ibu running headless chickens and kind of just come on and say, sit there, do not move.
Yeah. He's like John Eustace as a player reincarnate, isn't he? He'll just come on and see it. Come on and see it out. Well, let's get your score predictions then. Cal, Tuesday, Burnley in town. What are you thinking?
Big game, big atmosphere. I think it'll be a really sold game. Unfortunately, everyone in attendance, me included with Vic, it's going to be 0-0. I can't see anything. I'm taking it, and running for the hills because I think to get any point out of that, especially when the teams around us have got quite tough games, any point that you can nick off your rivals, you'll take. And on paper, this is probably set up for a defeat. So I'm going to go a 0-0, 1 point, take it and leave it.
Vic?
So yeah, I'm gonna be a bit delusional. I'm gonna go optimistic here. I'm gonna say Derby gonna win 1-0. I've just got this feeling that we're gonna do exactly what we did against Coventry. We're gonna nullify them. We're gonna stop them from playing their game. And if there's anything that sort of plays into our hands, it's their lack of goal threat up top. That could play into our hands in the sense that they don't score a lot of goals. I know neither do we, but we're playing at home. We back ourselves at home against anyone. So 1-0 Derby County win, and I'm going to put Jerry Yates to get the winner.
Just love the optimism, Vic. I really do. I have to follow what I predicted in the video that I did with Jake a couple of weeks back, and I thought that we wouldn't get anything from this game, and I still think that's the case. I think they'll come and beat us 2-0. Hopefully we can bounce back, obviously, on the following Saturday against Pompey. But for me, I just think this Burnley team are too strong. They're on too good a run. And as much as I am loving Eustace Ball at the moment, I just don't think it's going to be enough to get us at least a point. But who am I? Look, we've gone... I can't remember an episode where we've done loss, draw, win. I'm pretty sure I've never been involved in one of those. But looking at some of the comments on YouTube, Jim has agreed with Vic. Rams to win 2-1, Yates and Fozzie. Peter Kerr said 1-0 Armstrong. We'd love that as well. So yeah, there's some optimism. There's still some optimism. I think that's the most important thing, is that yes, we lost yesterday, but we've seen how hard this team is working. We've seen that they're listening to Eustace and we're playing better football. We're getting better results. So maybe that's just a little blip in the road. Maybe Tuesday's going to be the same, but this Derby team are well within it. And I come back to what I thought a couple of weeks ago, Cal, when I heard you on Radio Derby and you were saying that we were going to get 8 points out of the next 3 or whatever it might have been. And I honestly wanted to text you and tell you how deluded you were. And we ended up winning all of those games. So yeah, you're a much better critic and a much better predictor than I am. But yeah, if you have enjoyed this episode today, thanks so much for joining us live. But you can listen back on YouTube and Spotify or wherever you get your podcast from. We'll obviously be back in the week to preview the Pompey game. Massive game away against Pompey. But it's only left for me to say goodbye from me.
12 points from 15 in the last few games. It's going to get another few points. Goodbye from me.
A shout out to Southampton for taking one of our unwanted records of being relegated the earliest ever in the Premier League. Goodbye from me.
I didn't want to mention it because they've still got one record to go. So we'll wait for them
I've
to do
taken
that.
one. I love that.
We might have to. We might have to have that one. But yeah, we will see you soon.